I've a, I mean, Lauren, I suppose your story is something I've only know about 100%. I didn't even know this existed, to be honest. And then I saw your clips on TikTok, and I just, yeah, it was a real eye opener, and just, it's an important thing to talk about, because I said I just hadn't heard about it, and it's a really serious thing, and it's made a massive impact on you. So I'm just learning about your um, journey, and I have a few questions here which I just thought might be good to ask you, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So basically starting was just to tell us about the TMG disorder and what that looks like for you. Like what TMG is actually for
Yeah, and
you.
I think it's like an obvious first question, isn't it? But actually, I think that's probably one of the most important questions, because what I've learned over the years is that it is really, really misunderstood. So TMJ disorder is kind of an umbrella kind of blanket term that's given to like anybody with a problem within the jaw. So that might be problems within the jaw joints itself, or a muscular problem, which is much more common. And kind of what happened for me was, when I went for help initially, it was presumed that the pain that I was experiencing was from the muscles, and that I was kind of clenching and grinding my teeth, that it was down to stress and anxiety. And so the treatments that I were given to try and manage it were for muscular pain, things like Botox and physio and that kind of thing. But after, God, it was over a decade until I had a scan, and then found out that actually I've got quite severe degenerative joint disease within the joint itself. And it's so badly damaged now, and the discs are perforated, that my only option is titanium jaw joint replacement.
Okay. If that had been diagnosed or spotted years and years earlier, I presume it wouldn't have gotten to the state that it's in now, or or
I mean,
or would have it?
it's degenerative, which means it gets worse over time. But
Yeah,
I'm pretty confident in saying that the 16 years that I've spent suffering wouldn't have been as difficult,
yeah,
in kind of two ways. So I probably would have had more effective treatment earlier on, rather than being given like Botox, for example, which is obviously for the muscles. But also, I wouldn't have gone through kind of the emotional turmoil of being dismissed over and over, and not feeling listened to, and continuously being told that it was due to stress and anxiety, and almost feeling like it was my fault when things weren't working. Um, so just for that reason alone, I think it's so important that people get more than just a TMJ disorder diagnosis, because that's so broad, and that can mean two completely different things for two different people.
Okay, okay. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. Again. I didn't realize. I thought that was just specifically for what you have
Mm.
now. But it's so it could TMG or J also covers muscular. Okay, yeah. I mean
Yeah.
that's yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and some people do, when they get stressed or anxious, they can clench and grind their teeth in their sleep, and that can cause muscular pain, and it can be really, really painful. And those conservative treatments can be quite effective for those people, but they were never effective for me, and it took over a decade for me to understand why they weren't effective for me.
and I presume that's. I mean, it had a massive effect on your just your day to day life. I mean, it has to have made
Yeah, I
huge
mean,
impacts.
today, I've messaged you quite a few times today saying I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to do this live, because I've been in absolute agony all day, to the point where I had to take the codeine wasn't working, and I had to take morphine, and I've been asleep for most of the day. I obviously am here now, and probably to look at me now, you wouldn't have any clue that my day has been that way, because it is an invisible illness. But that's not uncommon for me now, getting to that level of pain where I have to rely on morphine just to kind of get through.
Yeah, that's shocking. I mean, I've had back pain in my past, but never like that. And like I know, like pain is a really difficult thing to just to accept and just kind of get through your day. So it's so difficult to understand it's been allowed go this long for you. That's what I really can't get my head around that it's been gone that long. I said my own experience of proper pain, which is nothing like what you have, but it's back pain. But back pain is back pain. Like I went in and there was no questioning. Oh well, you might be just, I don't know, sitting in your chair wrong or something. Like that it wasn't taken seriously. So the frustration you must have had to know what you were going through. I mean, you know yourself. So to not be taken seriously, I just can't picture.
And it wasn't for not trying. There was times where when I say begged for help, like literally sobbed, begging them to put me in an MRI scanner. There was so many times I would come out of appointments in floods of tears. There's members of my family who are medical staff, so I would take them with me in uniform. I wrote complaint after complaint. It wasn't for no trying. And in the end, I was on a blended diet for 2 years, and I dropped down to 5.5 stone. And it was affecting more than just, well, I say more than just my jaw, but it was affecting my entire life, but also potentially putting other organs at risk. And at that point, it was just, I'm gonna have to go private here, because I would have ended up tube fed at best.
Yeah. Wow. And again, for a lot of people who wouldn't know exactly what, like, anything about TMJ or know very little about it, or like your journey again, like what was the first symptoms that you started to notice that there might be a problem? Like what, like when you're saying that you've been with this for 16 years, so was it kind of fairly quick happening, or was it over time, or?
I had pain when I was like 13, 14, and clicking, which is really common. A lot of people's jaws will click when they're eating and things like that. And I remember when I was 14, I yawned in a geography lesson because I didn't really like geography. I was quite bored. So I yawned in a geography lesson, but my jaw locked open. And at that point, that was kind of like, this isn't right. Let's go and speak to somebody about it. And of course, I didn't know at the time what I know now. And I just went to speak to a dentist first. And they said, it's TMJ disorder. And if you wear this tooth guard at night, that'll help. I now know that those tooth guards you get from a dentist are actually to protect your teeth if you are clenching and grinding. But, at the time that wasn't kind of explained to me. And I just thought, well, if I wear this guard, it'll kind of stop the problem and it'll stop the pain. But of course it didn't, and it just got worse and worse and worse to the point where, it was affecting eating, talking. I was trying to study at uni. I did my undergrad and my master's at uni, but I was just in agony trying to get through and do my exams and that kind of thing. And yeah, it just got worse and worse and worse, basically. And I ended up going under max fax specialists. I've had 6 surgeries. I've tried it all, kind of thing, and it's just got worse.
And why, again, from my research on it, I mean, and from what you've been saying, it was just so easily dismissed, and you weren't taken seriously. And again, from my little bit of research, it seems to be, especially for somebody dismissed with women and with younger people. I mean, do you have any idea why, or do you have any feeling why that's the case, or is that the case? I mean,
I think so, yeah. And I spoke about this quite a bit recently. I do think there's kind of, with TMJ disorders as a separate thing, I think there's an issue there with kind of misunderstanding and differentiating early on whether it's muscular or whether it's a problem within the joint. And I think that's really important. But I do think my story is part of a broader issue of women, and young women especially, experiencing pain, and often that being put down to kind of an emotional explanation. It's stress, it's anxiety. When I was in school, it was, you're doing your school exams, they're really anxiety provoking. When I was in uni, it was, you're doing a degree, that's really stressful and anxiety. And it just kind of went on, and there was always a reason as to why it would be stress and anxiety. And kind of no want to kind of find out if maybe that wasn't the cause.
Okay. Yeah, that's. And do you think is that kind of part of you wanting to kind of get your story out there, to address that?
Yeah, I think, you know, whatever the cause of the pain, I think women and girls and young people experiencing pain and being taken seriously, you know, there's so much out there now about kind of endometriosis and
Yeah.
other conditions and people saying the same things, and there's a reason that there's a lot of people talking about this kind of thing. Um, but then I think also my TikTok account was kind of, I am not the only one who has been told for years and years and years that it's a muscular problem, and then found out, you know, 10, 15 years down the line that actually they've got significant degenerative arthritis in the joints. And I just thought, surely to God, I'm not the only one. And since starting my account, I've had numerous messages in my inbox of people with similar stories to me. Um, and that upsets me and that makes me angry, because obviously I've seen the impact that this has had on my life. I've lost friendships, I've lost my career, I've lost everything. You know, your world becomes so small. But then you hear about other people going through that and other people experiencing that. And that's when it really upsets me and makes me angry.
Yeah. No, I totally hear you on that, and like it's something which I'm kind of been through my sharing my struggle with codeine. That's the something I've been hearing from a lot of women, not going through what you're going through, but going through pain with the endo. Um,
Endometriosis.
yes, I'm bad at pronouncing that. Yeah, with that and other things, and that's what's led them down the path of having problems with codeine again. Not properly being taken seriously, you know,
Yeah.
like they're different conditions, different pains, but yeah, again, but the same thing, just they haven't been taken seriously. You know, and I think that's one of the things I enjoy about talking TikTok is just getting people's kind of stories out there. I said my story is one story, you know, your story is another story, but just getting different things out there that will benefit others. For me, it's a little boost to know that maybe me sharing my story might help, and hopefully that will be true for you as well. But it can be difficult. I mean, as you said, like you find it quite upsetting to hear from other people who are going through it, to know that they are, because you know exactly what they've been going through. You
Yeah, and
know.
that's it. You know, when it's yourself, obviously it's awful, but then you hear that there's these other people that have lost their careers as well, and it's a bigger issue than just me. And I think that's where it kind of really hits home.
Yeah. No, I get that. And then so I said it's been 16 years you've been with this. So what kind of treatments have you gone through so far, or any, or like what that kind of side of things, like if you had procedures done and treatments
How long have you
done?
got, Mark?
Yeah. As long as you want.
Um, yeah, I've tried a few. Most obviously not successful because it was prior to me getting a proper diagnosis. Um, so, like I said, originally when I was 14, 15, I got given the mouth guard from the dentist. Um, and then after that, the order of this might be kind of wrong. It's a bit patchy now, but after that, it was physio. Physio was the big thing that kept getting pushed. Um, and I can vividly remember the leaflet that they would give you, because I got handed it that many times over like a 10-year period. I could probably recreate it without looking at it. And that was kind of despite the fact that I was saying, you know, at this point my jaw was like permanently locked closed. And so I was struggling to do some of these exercises because I physically couldn't open my mouth more than, you know, a tiny, tiny amount. Um, and then once I got a scan 10 years down the line, they then agreed to do what's called an arthrocentesis, which is basically where they go into the joints and wash the joints out. That wasn't successful. Then they did it again, which I could never understand why, because it wasn't successful the first time around, but we did it again. And obviously when you're desperate, you're willing to try anything. So if they're telling me it's worth another go, then I was willing to give it another go. And then after that, I was supposed to have an arthroscopy, which is where they go in with a little camera, it's a diagnostic procedure essentially. And I was excited about that one because I thought that then I might get clearer answers as to what might be going on. You know, maybe I had one scan by this point, and scans don't show everything. So maybe they were going to find something that hadn't been found before. But actually, when I got to the hospital, the consultant hadn't ordered the camera in. So I ended up having another arthrocentesis because he didn't have the camera to be able to do the arthroscopy. And it was at that point that I was 5.5 stone, having spent 2 years on a blended diet. And I was just, sobbing, just begging them to do something. And he just told me to drink McDonald's milkshakes and think positive.
That's so. Who said that? Like a professional?
A Max Facts consultant. Yeah.
If somebody's telling somebody I got to have a McDonald's milkshake, I mean, I don't think you need to be experienced in this field at all to know that that's not right.
It's just not good enough. And kind of aside from the lack of compassion that was there when he said it, yeah, okay, McDonald's milkshakes have a lot of calories, and I needed calories because I was underweight. But what about the nutrition? There was no kind of dietitian support there at all. I did eventually get dietitian support, but that was purely because I went and sought that out myself. And then it was at that point where it was kind of like, look, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I don't have the money to go private, but there's no other option at this point. Like, I need to see somebody who is a specialist in this exact condition, who knows what is going to help. And so I spent, I think it was just short of £1,000 to see a specialist and have a scan. And it was at that point where I found out the extent of the damage, that it was degenerative arthritis, and that ultimately I needed a titanium jaw joint replacement. And so kind of naively, I was like, okay, and how much is that going to cost? And he said anywhere between £90,000 and £95,000. And I just cried in Euston Station.
Yeah. And there was no chance of that being covered by the NHS or any kind of...
No, I mean, at that point, because I was so poorly and my weight was so low and I was not getting any support from the NHS, the waiting lists in my area at that point were around 3 to 4 years. And that was obviously, if your consultant is willing to put you forward for that procedure, it then goes to a panel where the NHS decide whether or not they're willing to fund that procedure. And quite often, if they do fund it, they only fund replacement on one side if one side's worse than the other, rather than both sides. So it would have been kind of a whole process to even potentially get on that waiting list. And when I was on the waiting list, we were talking 3 to 4 years. And, my mum's medical, and she was just saying, like, your body is not going to handle being like this for another 3 to 4 years. And so my parents, thank God now, I mean, it wasn't an easy decision for them, but thank God they set up a GoFundMe, and I've been lucky enough to be able to go private and receive exceptional care from an amazing consultant.
Yeah,
now I'm going to get emotional.
Yeah, no, but it is. It's a real... I just can't, like, after this amount of time, I just to know that that you're being taken seriously, that you're being looked after, that you're getting the help you deserve, and you've been through so much. I mean, it's and that's what really got me when I saw your story, and I saw the clips with your parents and online. This is a real story. This is a real person being put through so much. So it's a powerful thing to hear. So, and like, are you okay to talk a bit, like, a tiny bit about the like the GoFundMe, or like how that came about, or is that something you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we found out that the surgery was going to be kind of £95,000, and of course, this isn't round the corner. Every time I see my consultant, even just for a 10-minute appointment, it's 4 hours there and 4 hours back. So of course there's a lot of travel involved with that, and if I'm staying in hospital, if my mum's coming with me, she obviously needs a hotel and time off work and all of that kind of thing, and we were just like, where on earth are we going to get this money from? And it got to a point where my mum and dad considered selling the house, and a few people had said to me, set up a GoFundMe. There's amazing people out there that will want to help, and that didn't sit comfortably with me. Like, the thought of asking people for money just didn't sit with who I am as a person. And my mum and dad are really proud people, and they didn't want to do that either. But I think it just got to a level of desperation where it was worth a shot. And if it meant that they didn't have to see their daughter living the way that I was living, then they were going to do it. So they set it up, and it had like an influx of donations at the start. I think it was on like £2,000-3,000, which was incredible, but obviously nowhere near what we needed. And I won't go into kind of the ins and outs of it because it's a long story, but ultimately ITV got hold of the story and they shared my story on Granada Reports, and within 5 days we had £95,000.
Yeah, and I can see why. I mean, because I've seen the clips that you've put up. I mean, anyone that saw that, can see this is something so important to be part of, and to help somebody. So yeah, that's amazing. And I've never kind of spoken to somebody who's gone that route, and I guess kind of being reluctant to do it. Like, I totally get that, but there's so many good people out there. Like, there really are. Like, there's so many, and I'll see that here on TikTok. That like at the beginning, like the support I was receiving, from people I didn't know, I just wasn't expecting it. I just wasn't. And it just, there's so many good people out there. So I think so many people do use things like GoFundMe for this reason, and that's because there's good people out there, wanting to help people. So I say that was just the most amazing feeling to know that you've gotten to where you needed to get to.
Yeah. I have, I think in my lifetime I've maybe seen my dad cry like 3 times, and he was literally on his hands and knees on the living room floor, like sobbing. Like, it was unreal. And even now, like, I still kind of can't believe that we're here. And I often go back on the GoFundMe page and read through the messages. And yeah, in that time there was, God, we had like checks in the post. We had letters from people who, I don't know them from Adam, but these gorgeous, like, heartfelt letters, and gifts were turning up left, right, and centre, and it was just phenomenal. And I was so low at that point, and like I said, your world becomes so small, and yeah, it just, everybody just got me through like a time where I look back now and I think without that I really don't know if I'd be sat in front of you today, if I'm completely honest.
No, absolutely. And it's emotional. Like, I understand, like, I'm feeling emotional here, you telling your story, hearing your, I can see it in the comments there. It's just, yeah.
Oh, I've not been reading them all.
No, and that's something to say, like when we're doing the chats, and just anybody dropping the comments, it's not us ignoring you, but it's just, if myself and Lauren were to sit here going through every comment, then we wouldn't get the chat. And I think having the chat and you getting to say your story is more important. Because, I mean, you're on TikTok, so anyone who has a question for you can easily contact you afterwards. But I think, like, at the end, kind of when we're finished, we might kind of fly through a few questions, but it does work better if we just chat away. But I can still kind of see them scrolling past. I can just see the outpouring of support coming in there. So yeah. So when was that? The time, the date that you reached, or like the month that you reached that target?
Yeah, so, and this is where the story gets very complicated and not what we expected at all. So, I mean, not that we expected to be here in any means, but we had the money, I think it was just over a year ago now. And again, I won't go into a whole load of detail, but at the time I went to my surgeon and said, right, okay, we've got the money, like, let's go. And he, ultimately, a journalist had got in touch with him about my story because of the media attention on my case, and he refused to operate. So I had to find a new surgeon, which is, I have had some questions on my TikTok about people asking who my surgeon is, and I'm not being ignorant by not responding to that. There's a reason I'm not saying who my surgeon is, because obviously I've been in a difficult position before on the back of talking about that. So I had to find a new surgeon, and at the time it was like the worst thing that could have possibly have happened. I was, one, desperate for this surgery, but also I had people's money sat in an account and no surgeon. So then I found a new surgeon eventually. There's only 5 in the country that can perform this operation, so actually finding another one wasn't an easy task. And although he agreed that ultimately I would need this replacement because of the risks associated with the surgery and my age at the time, so I was 29 when I met him, I'm 30 now, he believed that it was his duty to do everything he possibly could to delay the inevitable, and to try anything else possible to push that replacement back as far as he could, because these replacements don't last forever. So in kind of 10, 15 years, I'm probably going to need another one. And so it was difficult to hear at the time, but looking back now, I think it's the best thing that could have happened. Ultimately, it got me a place where I could, eat again, gain the weight back. I did have a couple of months here and there where I benefited from surgeries that he did, and I was in less pain, and I was able to, I've even been on holiday, stuff that I didn't think I'd be able to do. So I've had a taste of what life could potentially be like post replacement. But sadly, we're at the point now, quicker than he thought, I think, where, we've exhausted all options, and yeah, replacement is the only option now, and it will be the next step.
And how far is that off? Like, is that known yet, or is that still being discussed? Like, is there any kind of an idea when that surgery might be?
I see him in 4 days to start planning. And it's not a case of it's not one of those operations where you can just kind of put a date in the diary and go for it, because the titanium prosthetics are custom designed. So there's a bit of a process where I've got to kind of have a scan, and then they'll 3D design them, and then they're manufactured in another country, and then they get shipped into the UK. So that will take a little bit of time, but once they're here and in the UK, it'll be, all systems go. And of course, because I am so lucky to be under a private consultant now, it will be quite quick at that point.
Brilliant. And what's actually involved in that surgery now? Like, is it? I'm assuming it's a fairly substantial procedure, like you've been going through. I mean, yeah, and like what's kind of involved with it, or is it like what's?
Yeah. So I'm having bilateral, which will be both sides. So there is actually an animation video on my TikTok page if anyone wants to have a look after. But basically what they'll do is make an incision down the side of my face, both sides, and under here. They will remove part of the base of my skull, the joint, which is obviously very badly damaged, and the discs, which are perforated. And then they replace that with titanium. So there's like a fixture that goes on the bottom of my skull, and then a titanium hinge, like a joint, will go in, and then it'll all get kind of screwed in down here and repeated on the other side. The big risk is nerve damage, because you've got your main trigeminal nerves that run down your face, of which both have 5 branches that control like the movement of your eyebrows, your eyelids, your mouth, and all of that kind of thing. So any damage or bruising or anything to those nerves, there's a potential of paralysis, which may or may not be temporary. So that's the biggest worry, really.
Okay, yeah, geez, but you've been waiting 16 years for this, so it's yeah. And like, is there anything else that is, like a risk from doing it, or is it,
I think, like with any big open surgery, obviously risk of infection and all of that kind of thing, but the paralysis is definitely the main worry. For me especially, I think, female 30-year-old, like, to potentially come out of this with paralysis is scary, especially with it being your face. And there is a small risk that I'm really trying not to think about, which is about 5% of people who have this surgery do still experience pain post-op. So I'm just kind of keeping everything crossed that I'm not one of the really unlucky ones.
Yeah, no. I think you've been through enough. I think, I think this is, you, from what you've been through, I mean, you just deserve everything to go absolutely right, and I'm sure it absolutely will. And, the fact that you're saying there's 5 people in the UK that actually perform this surgery, so I mean, like, you're in specialized hands with that, so.
Yeah, he is. My surgeon is incredible. And like I said, it was I was with somebody else and then I had to find a new surgeon, and all of that was really like scary and traumatic at the time. But now I'm under him. I'm really glad it happened the way that he did. And like whatever happens in that theatre, like you say, I have no doubt whatsoever that I could not be in better hands.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and that's so important to have the trust to trust somebody who's doing something like that for
Yeah.
you. That's a massive thing to have, which is great. Which is great. And here, Lauren, tell me, I mean, this hasn't been easy. This has not been an easy journey for you. And how has it affected you? Say your mental health. I mean, is that
Cry
okay to
all the time. As you can see, I cry constantly. No, it's been massive. People ask me all the time, how do you do it? How are you still doing it? How do you cope? And I honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. It's losing my career was the hardest thing for me. Anyone who kind of knows me personally will know that even from school, I was always the one that stayed up late, making sure that my homework was as good as it possibly could be. I always got good grades, and then went to uni and did my masters, and I was doing my doctorate in forensic psychology, and I had to step away from that because I couldn't manage it anymore with all the talking and stuff that's involved with that every day. So that had a big impact, and there's been some serious lows. I mean, it's out there in the newspapers and on the news that there was a time where I actively looked to see if I would qualify for euthanasia in another country, because the thought of carrying on living in this level of pain every day was just completely unbearable. But I think now, knowing that money is in the bank account and knowing that I'm in a position that so many people would love to be in if they were suffering with this, with having such a good surgeon, that's the thing that's keeping me going. And all the people around me and the support around me that has led to me getting to this point. There's hope and there's a potential light at the end of the tunnel, and I have to go through this in order to find out what life could potentially be like on the other side of that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I think it's funny. I say to people, oh, you know what? People ask me about my recovery and what's been good for my recovery from codeine addiction, and I say, especially people who aren't on TikTok, and I say TikTok has actually been probably one of the biggest tools of my recovery, and they don't get it, they don't understand it, they think I'm crazy to say that, and I'm hopeful that on any low moments that you're going to see the support that's here on TikTok, because it really is. It can be a special place. Social media gets a bad rep all the time, and it's warranted in a lot of cases. But there's times when it's a really, really good tool, and I hope that's the experience that you get here as well, the same as I did. And I was wondering, what brought you to kind of joining TikTok and actually deciding to share here on TikTok?
I wanted to do it for ages, but I don't know, I was always just too nervous, I guess. Like you say, even though my face has been on TV and my story's been out on TV, like it felt more personal. It was coming kind of from me, and it was just a scary thing, I guess. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, Jade, my friend, has started sharing her ADHD journey on TikTok, and her first video came up on my feed, and I watched it, and I was like, I think that's great. Like, I think it's amazing that people are doing this. And then I thought, well, there's going to be people watching my videos thinking the same thing. Yeah. And I think when I saw it from that other person's perspective rather than my own, that's when I just thought, you know what? If my videos reach one person who is potentially in a position similar to what I'm in now or have been in, then it's worth it. So why
Absolutely.
not?
From what you've been through, it's not going to make up for this 16 years you've been going through it, but knowing that what you have been through might potentially save somebody the exact same journey is a powerful thing. It really is.
And like I said, I'm in conversation now, back and forth conversation with numerous people that I've met through TikTok. I've got people on WhatsApp. I've got somebody who lives quite close to me, and we've said that we're going to try and meet up for coffee, who are in the same position. And yeah, I think surely something good has to come from all of this. And
Yeah.
if it's that, then that's what it is.
Yeah, big time. And there are people who you'd have never met. I mean, they could have been living next door to you maybe, and you'd have never known. So that's the power of it being on here for sure. And you'll probably find, like when I started sharing here first about recovering from codeine, the reason I did it was because nobody was talking about it. I searched and nobody was talking about it. And now we've a codeine crew. We've a gang of us on here who talk regularly, and it's growing all the time. And it's just, I can see the same thing happening with your
And it sparks conversation. I mean,
Mm.
Like we've spoke about, I take my painkillers for pain. I don't feel like I'm addicted, but I'm very aware that I'm on a very high dose of codeine. I'm on morphine at a very young age. They are addictive, and actually, when I come to taper off those, my experience withdrawal symptoms, that's a very real possibility. And it was only after stumbling across your TikTok page that me and my dad had a conversation about, the drugs that we're on for pain and what that could potentially mean when we come off them. And that's an important conversation to be having with family members and friends and things. And had I not stumbled across your TikTok, I don't think we would have had that conversation. So yeah, if it gets people talking, if it raises awareness, and if it makes people feel less alone in whatever it is that they're going through, then it's always worth it, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's actually interesting. So, that's where I kind of felt in a small way that our stories were in like a tiny bit linked in that was the painkillers that you are currently on, and that's some serious stuff that you're on right now, and you've been on it for a long time, I presume. So
Yes.
is that yeah? Is that ever discussed? Kind of the plan coming off it or anything? I suppose it's not really. That's something you'll discuss after you've been through the surgeries and everything like that. But I just presume that there will be a process to taper off, to come down, or something off that type.
Yeah. It was actually, no one's ever mentioned it to me or spoke to me about it, and I think partly, like you say, is probably because I'm still waiting for this operation, and so we'll talk about that after. But I have mentioned it already to my GP that I'm aware that these aren't prescription drugs to be messed with, and having codeine and morphine is a lot, and I'm aware that I am going to probably need to taper off and be aware of like the withdrawal symptoms and things. But I'm kind of, obviously I've got you who I've connected with on TikTok, so I'm aware of things through that. And I have medical people within my family as well, so I kind of already have that knowledge. But of course, there's people out there taking these painkillers either over the counter or prescription who might not be aware. Because when I first got prescribed codeine, nobody told me that they could be addictive. I was never told that.
Yeah, and it's not. Again, I hear from plenty of people here on TikTok again that have gone down the route of being addicted to codeine or other opiates, again through the prescribed route, and just it wasn't made clear to them. I see someone, actually Stevie Marie, just in the comments there. Just that's someone who is, I'm not sure if you follow Stevie on TikTok. If you don't, Lauren, you should, because she's an amazing lady. But she is.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. So you know her story. But she's I think it's over 150 days off all opiates and dealing with chronic pain, and it's different to what you're going through. But I suppose similar in that she was prescribed all this stuff and she's dealing with it afterwards. But and again, there's plenty of other people I've seen now sharing stories of dealing, kind of, are coming off prescribed medications for all different conditions. That affects a lot of people. But as I said, that's. You've such a good team around you now. You're exactly where you need to be. That's great. And so, if you were to change something, like about the whole process, about how you've been treated, is there a quick fix? Maybe not a quick fix, but is there something that you think should be done or could be done to possibly stop people going through what you've been going through now? Like, is there something like for me, like there's certain things I always kind of say that, like about the availability of codeine, that's for my story. But is there for what you've gone through, like, is there anything that you would kind of go, look, if the NHS or whoever took these steps, that there might be something that could stop another person going through the 16 years that you have.
Yeah, I think, like I said, TMJ disorder, and when you go in with kind of pain in the jaw, clicking, any of those symptoms, you are told you've got TMJ disorder. And so automatically you're lumped under an umbrella term that it's just not specific enough, because then you're getting thrown all of these treatments that are potentially not going to be effective for you if your problem doesn't fall into the category of the muscular, because in the literature it's split into muscular and kind of within the joint. But when you go and see specialists, from my experience, they don't differentiate. So I think for me, it's kind of that early imaging and thorough assessment to determine, actually, is this a stress, anxiety, clenching, grinding, muscular problem, or is there something more going on here? And if there is, what's underlying that and what's the cause? And therefore, what's the effective treatment pathway? Because like I say, it was 15 years that I was essentially being treated as a muscular patient when I wasn't. And all it took was that one appointment with that specialist and a scan, and he showed it me on his screen and said, that's a mess and you need that replacing. That's all it needed.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure it was nice to finally have an answer, to, or confirmation, but you knew yourself, but it was nice to actually have that. But I'm sure at the same time, it was like, why wasn't this done 15 years ago? Why wasn't this not done? That, I'm sure that was in your mind as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough. And we've been chatting for 45 minutes now. Has this been tough for you to chat for this amount of time? Is this something that?
Yeah, so when I'm any movement in my mouth, whether it's talking, I mean, I'm not eating at the minute, I'm on blended diet again, but any slight movement in the mouth, obviously normally you would have like your disc and your cushioning in the joint, whereas for me it's completely eroded now. So any slight movement is essentially bone on bone, so it's joint and skull just moving against each other constantly. So the more I talk, the more the pain builds. Obviously I've learned to mask it as well as I possibly can, but I have morphine ready and waiting for where, as soon as I get off this live, do you know?
Seriously.
And there's if I talk quite a lot, I'll often wake up in the morning with quite a swollen face as well.
Well, we won't chat for much longer then, because 45 minutes it's been such an eye opener. I've absolutely loved chatting to you here.
Thank you.
It's such an important story to get out there, and it's a hard story to hear, but it's a encouraging story. It's a motivator, and I know I just hope maybe there's someone in this chat here, or sees your videos, that I said it is going to help. Is there anything that we haven't chatted about? Do you think we should mention, or do you think we've?
I don't think so. I think if there is anyone in the chat who has been told they've got TMJ dysfunction or TMJ disease or disorder or whatever name it's given, and you don't know anything more than that. So for example, I now know I've got degenerative arthritis in the joint, and that falls under TMJ, but it's not just TMJ disorder. So I think if you've been told you've got that and you don't know anything more, you need to be asking questions. You need to be asking for a scan, and that's the best advice that I could possibly give, because they don't always listen. But hopefully, if you ask enough people, you'll be able to get imaging and answers sooner than I did.
Yeah, well, if you'd seen somebody sharing this story, I bet you maybe there was something that you could have questioned more, or something like it. Like, I think if you 7 years ago had seen somebody chatting like this, you kind of go, hold on a second, I'm not going crazy here. There is somebody experiencing that, and that's where I think this is going to really, really help somebody. I think it could help many people.
Yeah, it's only been in the last couple of years that I've learned that it is an umbrella term, and that actually it's not a specific diagnosis. And often in the comments on my videos, people are saying, I'm diagnosed with TMJ disorder. And so I'm saying, have you had a scan? Do you know what that means for you?
Yeah.
because it's so common, so common.
Okay, okay, yeah, that's great. Well, look, Lauren, I think I said um, it's been an amazing live here, and I know it's been so supportive. I said it's just to say to anybody dropping in the comments there, like maybe we'll just have a quick scan through, will we? I said
Yeah.
it's up to you. I said I know this has been like we're coming up now 50 minutes chatting, so like we won't spend much longer. But if there's anything you want to, is there anything you see in the comments there or anything, or you
Just
know?
thank you to everyone. There's lots of names that I recognise. Um, Lots of them, you won't understand this, Mark, but there's lots of people from the My Haunted Project team that I knew would be here supporting, without a shadow of a doubt. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I can get the. I'm fairly sure I can share it. No, I can. The list of comments and questions and all that came in, so I'll be able to share that with you, so you'll be able to see that. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So look, anyone who doesn't follow Lauren already, I'm sure if you hear you have, but give Lauren a follow. Make sure you do. Let's keep on helping Lauren get her story out there. It's just it's
And
such
the
a.
other way around,
Oh,
people who are
thanks,
in here
thanks,
from
man.
my friends, Mark is,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
as you can see, you've seen from this, he's incredible, and the stuff he's doing and the people he's supporting is amazing. So absolutely go and follow Mark. And who knows, we might do another one together in a bit of time, Mark.
Absolutely, Lauren. I would always be up for that because I said you're an amazing person, and I said the second I started seeing your videos, it's like, wow, this is a special lady. So,
Oh, thank you.
thank you for being here. Thank you for this being your first live. I have a feeling we'll be seeing you a bit more.
You'll be sick of my face now. I'll be on all the time.
Oh, I love it. Do it. Absolutely, it's great. No, it's great. It's great, and like there is a community. Like you'll find that there is a community. There's the same people I see coming in. There are people I don't. I mean, I know them from TikTok, but I've never met them. But there is a really, really strong community here, and it's growing all the time. So I see that happening as well for you, Lauren. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
From Spain on my holidays. It's been great chatting to you, Lauren, and I'll chat to you again soon. All right.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Thank you.
That was really, really special. Thank you so much, Lauren, for being in on that. And thanks to everybody in the comments. I said my apologies that we didn't get answering the questions. It's just when we're chatting like that, it just doesn't work if we kind of stop and look through every comment. But I said I do get a what you call it, like a list in the report of the live. So I'll pass it on to Lauren. Any supportive comments and stuff that came in, I will pass those over to Lauren, of course. And thanks to everybody who's here. Fiona, thanks for moderating, and Stevie Marie, and no, it's been great. It really, really was. Just having a quick scan through here. I might stay on for a small bit. See, and Lauren might still be there in the comments, so maybe I said I'm just always conscious, of course, with Lauren. I mean, the fact that she's going to have to go and take painkillers now, like serious painkillers, after doing this 45-minute chat, and it just shows. But yeah, what an amazing lady! I said, and yeah, that was a special life. That was really good. That was really good. And, yeah. Stevie, if it's a serious tan envy, yeah, thanks a million, and I have another week to go. So yeah, I'll be as tanned as Ben from the Codeine Diary soon, but he gets his from the sunbeds, doesn't he? Hope he's still here. He heard that. I don't think he is.